What do you see when you look at me? A heartbeat or a headline?
I entered Guantanamo, as I remember, in a state of being drugged. Being in that state, tied up in that way, was so painful. I pleaded with the guards to give me some kind of sedatives, which they did. So I woke up in a daze. There are flashes. There's not a complete recollection because I was still sedated. I was stripped naked and hosed down. I remember walking across the gravel of the newly built Camp Echo, which is where I was taken to, which was maximum security isolation, complete solitary confinement. And then I remember clearly walking into a building, a small room in which there was a smaller cage that had been put there. And that was going to become my home for the next 2 years. It was just me, the cage, and what was outside the cage was at any given time a guard or two that were watching me continuously. The only way I understood or knew there were other prisoners there was through the guards. And occasionally, if there was screaming going on, screams of pain. Sometimes there would be prisoners who'd lost their minds and were screaming out of anguish. The cell space was no more than the ability to take 3 steps in either direction. It was 8 foot by 6 foot. And I'd been pacing one of these days and considering and thinking about what had happened to my family, my wife, my children. And I eventually exploded. I started punching and kicking and screaming and shouting and swearing. And one of these psychiatrists sat on the opposite side of my cell and asked me, had I ever considered removing my trousers, threading them with my sheet, tying the noose around my neck, and then attaching that to the corner of the cell and committing suicide.
I was a teenager in Srebrenica, and I had a terrible experience in Srebrenica with nothing, with no food, I lived without electricity. So I had terrible 4 years of experience, as if I was in concentration camp. I cannot make any kind of other comparison except that one. So all of a sudden I had to flee from that place to another place, and I had to survive. I had to walk 100 kilometers. Many things were running through my mind, and the one was constant. My life was so short, and I had nothing almost in my life except my early childhood. So I needed to survive, to see more, especially to see my family members, especially to see my twin brother. And we were born at the same time, and unfortunately he was killed.
Ovdje je bila granica, ovdje. Ja sam otprilike ovdje negdje ležao. Tu sam ležao, Vidiš livadu, puna mrtvi. Ustaneš. Tačno, ovdje bila gromca. Obišao sam pored, nije još uvijek. Ova zemlja je puna krvi.
More than 3,500 people were killed in this city of Prijedor, only because they had Muslim names. 11,500 people were killed in Sarajevo. 1,600 kids were killed in Sarajevo. only because they are different names, or because their father and mother didn't consider themselves being Serb or Croat, but being Bosnian. And we, these empty-headed teenagers, we were practically facing the fifth military power in Europe at that time. We didn't have anything to lose. The only thing that we were doing is actually defending our city, our families, and our homes. That's all. We didn't go anywhere to fight somebody on their own territory. We were literally defending our city. Just the war was imposed to me. I had no influence over it.
Dugo sam čekala za sina.
And I still didn't have any information about my son.
Željela da nađem bilo šta.
I was hoping that I will find anything.
Zauzela plac do
I
duša.
even reserved a place next to my husband.
2008.
And then only in 2008,
Opet u martu.
again March 2008,
Ja sam zvala I pitala da li ima nešto.
I actually called the ICMP to ask them if they have anything.
Rekli su mi
about
ima
my son.
nešto, ali nema ni 50%.
They told me, yes, we did manage to find some of the remains, but it's very few bones, not even 50% of the body.
Čekala sam 4 godine da nađu još.
I waited for another 4 years, hoping that they'll find some more bones.
Nije nađeno ništa.
Nothing else was found.
2013. odlučila da
And then in
ono što ima.
2013, I've decided to bury these few bones that I had.
Eto dođe.
It's about the time that I was thrown out from my house. It was kind of shocking. I wasn't really expecting it to happen, but because of events out of my control, I was forced to leave, and it was the scariest night of my life. I cried and cried so much. I spent the whole night walking around in the dark because I had nowhere else to go, and it was really brutal, and I hated it because it was something that I couldn't control, and I had no one to ask for help, and nowhere else to go. It was just me, a bag, and my thoughts to keep me company. There was nothing else.
My name is Edin. I'm from Bosnia, born in 1969. Okay. Growing up in Bosnia was, as a young age, you go to school, you come back from the school, you play sport on the streets, you go cinema, you go swimming during the summer, you go fishing, you have weekends with the family, enjoying your life, same as anyone else around the world. My mum used to pray secretly in the room, so it wasn't open. I knew she prayed because she used to have a sheepskin prayer mat, and she used to go into separate room, lock herself and pray, and I knew she's praying, but she couldn't teach me or anyone else because of that scaredness of whoever and whatever. The system was messed up. My uncle used to pray secretly, very secretly, and he could read Quran. But
basically, like, I used to always walk in school, either get thrown in a dustbin or something like that, and then as soon as I got out, I'd get drowned down the toilet or something. It was kind of hard for me because I had to put up with that for 3 years.
The past few years, I've been bullied, and people were calling me names, and I couldn't take it more. So I got angry and started hurting them and attacking them. And that's the reason why now I got anger problems in that. Because I'm from Africa, they call me Black Monkey, and that's when they say that, I'd flip straight away and attack.
By the time I got to grade 5, I'd been to 23 primary schools throughout New South Wales and Victoria. And my grandmother and her sisters, they were taken away and put in a place called Cootamundra. A lot of us were sort of born into the welfare system. My grandaunt, she used to sort of talk about when she and Nan were taken away. And they were sent to a place with other Aboriginal girls. The police just come in, just picked them up, took them down to the police station, left them there overnight, then they'd take them down to Cootamundra. They'd be trained as domestic servants for about 6 to 8 weeks. Then they'd be put into private homes to work for usually wealthy British people.
We take the risk running from Libya, Libyan militia. From Libya we took the rescue boat or the death boat. We used to sleep rough. Sometimes we look for food through the remains of people beside the restaurants and other famous like McDonald's and Kentucky. We just search for the bins to find food that to stay alive. So I take the risk and get inside a freezer lorry all by myself. You can imagine that -7 degrees. And it's I'm lucky that's mean only 3 hours from Boulogne in France to an area called Salford, just before, after Dover. You know, shivering, shaking all the way until the police stopped the vehicle and I found the ambulance there. They said that, welcome to UK, and why do you take the risk from Sudan to here?
What was it when I was back in Hamburg when I was 21 that drove those guys to kick me on the ground as though I wasn't a human being? What is it that leads people to hate each other so much, to point fingers, to divide along community lines, to blame others for their own suffering and for their own unfortunate circumstances?